Hi everyone, welcome back. In this section of the lectures, we are going to build Search REST API using Spring Boot, Spring Data JPA in MySQL Database. Well, developing Search REST API or Filter REST API is one of the common requirement for the developers, right? Well, here are the development steps. First, we'll create a Spring Boot project and then we'll configure MySQL Database in our Spring Boot application. Next, we'll create a product JPA entity. Next, we'll create product repository interface, and then we create a JPQL and native SQL queries for Search REST API. Next, we'll create a service layer, and then we'll build Search REST API, and then finally we'll test it using Postman client. Well, let's head over to your favorite browser. So I'm in a Chrome browser, and just type start.spring.io. So this will brings up Spring Initializer website. Well, Spring Initializer is basically a website or tool which we can use to quickly create Spring based application. All right, now let's go ahead and let's fill up all these project information over here. So here we have two types of projects, MyMain project and Gradle project. So let's keep MyMain project as selected, and here three JVM languages like Java, Kotlin, Groovy. So let's keep Java as selected, and let's keep the Spring Boot version, that is 2.6.6. so this is basically a stable and latest version of Spring Boot, and Spring Boot team also recommend to use this 2.6.6 version right now. Okay, but you may see this Spring Boot version different whenever you use this video. All right, so make sure that you choose the Spring Boot version that is recommended by Spring Boot team. All right, great. Now let's go ahead and let's fill up project metadata over here. So here I am going to give group ID as net.java guides, and then artifact ID, let's give Spring Boot Search REST API, and name, so name is same as artifact, so let's keep as it is, and description, let's give Spring Boot Search REST API with MySQL Database. All right, perfect. Let's give package name as net.javaguides.springboot. All right, perfect. Let's keep packaging as a jar. Next, Java version. So I'm going to keep Java 11 as selected, but you can go ahead and use Java 8, 11, 17, 18 as per the JDK installation in your machine. All right. Now let's go to the dependency section over here. Click on add dependency. So we are going to use web dependency, that is Spring Web dependency, to develop the REST APIs. So go ahead and select Spring Web dependency. Apart from that, we are going to use Spring Data JPA dependency. Well, we are going to build a repository layer or a DAO layer. So we're going to choose Spring Data JPA, and Spring Data JPA internally uses Hibernate as a JPA provider. All right, and basically we use Spring Data JPA to reduce a lot of boilerplate code which is required to develop the DAO layer or a repository layer. Well, let's select Spring Data JPA, and we're going to use MySQL Database. For that, we're going to use MySQL JDBC driver. Next, we're going to use Lombok dependency. So Lombok dependency or Lombok library is basically helps us to reduce the boilerplate code. Okay, in a project we'll see how we can use Lombok library annotations to reduce the boilerplate code. Okay, so let's choose Lombok dependency. Alright, so these are the dependencies that we are going to use in our Spring Boot application. Well, at the bottom you can see a couple of options like generate, explore, share. Well, if you want to explore the Spring Boot application, you can go ahead and click on explore, and you can explore the project structure and all the files. Alright, so if you can open pom.xml file, you can able to see all the dependencies that you have selected is added to the pom.xml file. Alright, perfect. Just close it and go ahead and click on generate button to generate the Spring Boot application. Well, you can see Spring Boot Search REST API.zip. So Spring Boot application is generated as a zip file, and it is downloaded in a file system. Let's go ahead and let's open this zip file in a folder. All right, now let's extract this zip file. Well, once we extract the zip file, let's go and let's open the IntelliJ IDEA. All right, so in the IntelliJ IDEA you can see a couple of options like new project, open, get from, VCS. So we're going to open the existing project in IntelliJ IDEA. So go ahead and click on open over here, and just go ahead and choose the project. So go to downloads folder and choose Spring Boot REST API project. Well, IntelliJ IDEA will download all the dependencies and it will set up the Spring Boot application. Now you can able to see our Spring Boot application is successfully imported in the IntelliJ IDEA. Alright, perfect. Now what we'll do, we'll create a project structure for our Spring Boot application. We'll go to the main package over here, right click, new and choose package. Let's give package name as entity and hit enter. So let's go and let's create one more package. Let's call it as controller. Within a controller we keep all the Spring MVC controllers. Let's go and let's create one more package and let's call it as repository. Within a repository package we're going to keep all the Spring Data JPA repositories. So let's go and let's create one more package and let's call it as service. Within a service package we keep all the services, okay, service classes and interfaces. Well, to keep it simple, we have created these 4 packages as of now. If required, we will create later. Now what we're going to do is we're going to configure MySQL database in our Spring Boot application. So go to the resources folder. Within resources folder we have application.properties file. Well, within the application.properties file we're going to configure MySQL database so that our Spring Boot application can able to connect to the MySQL database. Well, before that, first we'll create the database. Well, let's head over to the MySQL Workbench. So I'm going to use MySQL Workbench to create the database and interact with the MySQL server. Well, MySQL Workbench is one of the MySQL client that we can use to interact with the MySQL server. Well, here I'm going to quickly create the database. So just type the SQL statement create database followed by database name. So let me give database name as search API, something like that. So you can give any database name that you want, but for this functionality, I mean we are developing search REST API, hence I am going to give database name something like search_API. Alright, so let's go and let's execute this SQL statement and this will create the database. Let's refresh the schemas and here you can able to see search_API database is created. Alright, perfect. Now we are good to configure this database in our Spring Boot application. Alright, perfect. Well, let's type the property spring.datasource.url and let's provide a JDBC URL to connect to the MySQL database. So just type the value as JDBC:MySQL:localhost. So we are going to connect our Spring Boot application to localhost database. That's why localhost over here, followed by 3306 is the port of the MySQL database, and then let's configure the database. Let's give database name as search_API. Right, next let's configure database username and password. Let's type the property spring.datasource.username equal to root. Similarly, let's configure database password. Let's type the property spring.datasource.password equal to whatever the password you have given to the MySQL database that you can give here, but make sure that you will configure the database username and password as per the MySQL installation on your machine. Alright, perfect. Well, next we need to configure Hibernate Dilate. Well, let's go and let's type the property spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.dilate and the value is org.hibernate.dilate.mysql5 okay. So we're gonna use latest MySQL dilate over here. So I'm gonna remove this and I will add MySQL 8 dilate. Okay, so this is the latest dilate, Hibernate Dilate for MySQL database. Okay, now we have configured Hibernate Dilate for MySQL database vendor. Okay, well, basically Hibernate uses this dilate to create the SQL statements based on the database. In our case, we are using MySQL database. So Hibernate will use this dilate to generate the SQL statements with respect to MySQL database vendor. Now let's go ahead and let's configure a few more Hibernate useful properties. For example, spring.jpa.hibernate DDL auto property. Well, this property is pretty useful. So this property will tell Hibernate that generate the database tables based on the JPA entities that we have created in our Spring Boot application. Okay, and make sure that you provide update as a value. Next, we have spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.show_SQL equal to true. So this property tells that Hibernate need to show the SQL statements in a console. Okay, and next, spring.jpa.properties.hibernate format_SQL equal to true. So this property will tell Hibernate that whatever the SQL statement that Hibernate show in a console should be well formatted. Alright, so these are the few useful Hibernate properties that we can use in our Spring Boot application. Now we have configured MySQL database in our Spring Boot application. So let's go ahead and let's run our Spring Boot application, and we'll verify that whether our Spring Boot application will be able to connect to the MySQL database or not. Okay, let's go to main entry point of the Spring Boot application, and let's go ahead and let's run the Spring Boot application. Alright, and there we go. You can able to see here there is no error or exception in a console. It means that our Spring Boot application is successfully connected with the MySQL database, and you can able to see Hibernate uses org.hibernate.dilate.mysql8dilate over here. Alright, so it means that our Spring Boot application is successfully connected with the MySQL database. Next, we will create a JPA entity. So just minimize this and go to entity package. Right click on the entity package, new, and then choose Java class, and let's go ahead and let's give entity class name as product. Hit enter. Now let's go and let's define properties for this product class. Let's say private long id, and then private string stock keeping unit, and then private string name. So this is going to be a product name, and then string product description. Alright, and then private boolean active, okay, whether the product is active or not, and then private string product image URL, right? So let's give image URL over here. Next, private local date time, let's say date created. So this is the product date created, and then private local date time date updated. Okay, perfect. So these are the fields for this product class. Next, we're gonna use Lombok annotations to automatically generate a getter, setter methods and constructors for this product class. Well, let's use add generate annotation to generate a getter methods for these fields, and let's use add setter annotation to generate setter methods for these fields, and we're gonna use add no argument constructor over here. Next, we're gonna use all argument constructor. Okay, so these are the pretty useful Lombok annotations to automatically generate getter, setter methods and constructors. Alright, perfect. Now we have created product class. Now let's make this product class as a JPA entity by using JPA annotations. Well, let's use add entity annotation. So this add entity annotation will basically mark this class as a JPA entity. Next, we're going to use add table annotation to configure table details for this product entity. So we're going to give name to the table, something like products. Next, we need to configure a primary key for the table. So for that, we're going to use a JPA annotation, that is add ID annotation. Next, we need to provide a primary key generation strategy. For that, we're going to use add generated value annotation, and we will configure primary key generation strategy. So let's use a generation type dot identity as a primary key generation strategy. Okay, so this will basically use a database auto increment property to auto increment the primary key. Okay, next here we're going to use Hibernate provided a few of the useful annotations to automatically populate the values for these properties. So here let's say creation timestamp. Okay, so this one, creation timestamp from org.hibernate.annotations package. So this annotation is pretty useful. Whenever we save the product, Hibernate will automatically assign the value for this property. Okay, let's use this annotation. Next, we're going to use one more Hibernate annotation for this field, that is at update timestamp annotation from org.hibernate.annotations package. Okay, so these Hibernate annotations are pretty useful because these annotations will automatically populate the values for these fields. Okay, great. Now we have created product JPA entity. Well, let's run our Spring Boot application and let's verify whether Hibernate will create this products table in a MySQL database or not. So let me go to the main entry point class, and from here I'm going to run Spring Boot application. Okay, and you can able to see in a console Hibernate generated SQL statement. Okay, so this is the DDL SQL statement to create the products table. Now let's verify from the MySQL workbench. So go to MySQL workbench and just refresh the schemas and go to search_API schema, and there we go, products table is successfully created. Okay, now we have successfully created product JPA entity. Next we will create Spring Data JPA repository for product JPA entity. So go to repository package, right click new, and then choose Java class and then choose interface, and let's give Spring Data JPA repository name as product repository. Hit enter. Well, this interface should extend JPA repository interface from Spring Data JPA library. Okay, and if you can see here, JPA repository is basically a generic interface. We have to pass two parameters. Alright, so let's choose JPA repository interface and then pass first parameter as a product, second parameter as type of the primary key, that is long. Okay, that's it. Well, now we have created a product repository interface that extends JPA repository interface from Spring Data JPA. Okay, if you can deep dive into JPA repository interface, it will provide a lot of methods like find all by ID, okay, save and flush, delete all by ID, delete all in batch, okay, get by ID. Alright, so JPA repository interface will provide all these methods. Apart from that, JPA repository interface internally extends paging and sorting repository interface. So paging and sorting repository interface will provide these methods to perform pagination and sorting. Okay, and paging and sorting repository interface internally extends CRUD repository interface, and CRUD repository interface will provide all these methods to perform different operations, that is database operations with respect to the product entity. Okay, for example, save all, find by ID, exist by ID, find all. Alright, it means that Spring Data JPA will provide all these methods to perform all these kind of operations with respect to MySQL database for product JPA entity. Okay, so let's go back to our product repository interface now. Okay, and one more important point here is we don't have to annotate this product repository interface with @repository annotation because Spring Data JPA internally provides @repository annotation. Alright, and we don't have to again annotate this interface with @repository annotation. Alright, perfect. Well, within a product repository interface, we are going to create a query method that returns a list of products based on the search criteria. Okay, so within a product repository interface, we are going to create a query method. So let's go ahead and let's view a query method return type as a list of products. Let's create a list of type product and let's give a query method name something like search products, and we are going to pass a query as a search criteria. Well, we are going to use JPQL query to search or filter the products. So here, in order to define the JPQL query, we have to use @query annotation from Spring Data JPA, and within this @query annotation we are going to pass a JPQL query, right? So here is the JPQL query, select p is basically alias from product. So in case of JPQL query, we have to provide a class name and field name, right? We don't have to provide table name and columns, right? So here we are basically creating JPQL query, so we have to use class name here and give the alias p. Alright, and just have a where condition over here, where, and then we are going to basically filter the products by name and description, right? So here what I'm going to do is we're going to say p dot name. Alright, and we're going to use like condition here. After that we're going to use concat operation or function, and we're going to pass three parameters. First one is %, and then colon query, and then third is percentage. Alright, perfect. So here we are using concat function to concatenate these three parameters. Okay, perfect. Now we have added search or filter criteria for name. Similarly, let's go ahead and let's add this condition for product description as well. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say p dot description like, and then concat, and then similarly pass three parameters, that is percentage, comma, and then colon query, and then within a single quote percentage. Alright, perfect. Well, within this JPQL query we are using named parameter to pass the value. Okay, so this colon query is basically a named parameter, and Spring Data JPA will dynamically bind the value that we pass to this colon query. Okay, now we have written a JPQL query to filter products by name and description. Okay, pretty simple. Well, let me recap what we have done. We have created a search products query method, and we have passed search query as a parameter, and then we have annotated this query method with add query annotation, and then we have passed this JPQL query. Well, the JPQL query is select p from product where name like this, or so here should be or description like this. Okay, so we are going to basically filter or search a list of products by name or description. Okay, so this is the JPQL query to search or filter a list of products by name or description. Well, we can also use native SQL query to search list of products by name or description. Okay, so here we have used JPQL query, but we can also use native SQL query as well. So let me show you how we can use native SQL query. So let me quickly copy this and let me paste it over here, and let me change the query method name. Let's say search products SQL, and let's replace this JPQL query with native SQL query. So instead of using class name, we have to use table name. The table name is products. Okay, and here one more change is, instead of using alias we have to use star over here. Alright, and whenever we pass the native SQL query to add query annotation, we have to enable this attribute, that is native query equal to true. Okay, so whenever you pass native SQL query to add query annotation, make sure that you need to pass this native query equal to true. Okay, so this attribute will tell Spring Data JPA that we are passing native SQL query. Okay, so this is how we can use native SQL query to filter or search list of products by name or description. Okay, you can use either one, but I am going to use this JPQL query. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and let's develop the service layer. Well, go to the service package, right click on it, new, and then choose Java class, and then choose interface. Let's give interface name as product service and hit enter. And within this product service interface, we are going to define one method, and let's give method return type as list of type product, and let's give method name as search products. Alright, and just pass string query as a method parameter. Alright, perfect. So now we'll create a product service IMPL class that implements product service interface. Well, go to service package, right click on it, new, and then choose package, and let's give package name as IMPL. Alright, within our IMPL package we are going to create service class. Let's give service class name as product service IMPL. Okay, and this class implements product service interface. Alright, perfect. Now let's go and let's override the methods from product service interface and let's provide the implementation. Alright, now once we create a service class, we have to annotate this service class with add service annotation from Spring Framework. Alright, perfect. Next we'll inject product repository interface in this class and we'll call product repository methods. So let's go and let's define the product repository interface here. Product repository, and we are going to use constructor based dependency injection. So right click, generate constructor and choose product repository and click OK. Okay, so here basically we are using constructor based dependency injection, and here we are not going to use @auto-add annotation because Spring Framework will automatically add @auto-add annotation whenever it find only one constructor for this class. Alright, now we have only one constructor for this class, so we don't have to add @auto-add annotation. Alright, perfect. Now let's go and let's provide the implementation for this search products method. Well, here I am going to get rid of this return statement, and here first we need to call product repository and its method, that is search products method, and I'm going to pass query as a parameter. Okay, so this search products will return a list of products, right? So let's have list of product and let's call it as products, and let's go and let's simply return these products. Okay, perfect. Now we have developed the service layer for this service products method. Next we need to create a REST API. For that we need to create a Spring MVC controller, right? So go to controller package, right click on it, new, and then choose Java class, and let's give class name as product controller and hit enter. Let's annotate this class with @REST controller annotation, and we're gonna also use @request mapping annotation to define the base URL for this Spring MVC controller. So let's give base URL something like API/v1/products. Okay, so within this product controller class we are going to define the REST APIs. So before that we need to inject product service, right? So again we are going to use constructor based dependency injection. So let's have a product service instance over here, and let's generate the constructor for this class. Right click, generate constructor, and choose product service and click on OK. Now we have a constructor for this class. Well, again we're not going to use @auto-add annotation over here because Spring will automatically add @auto-add annotation because this class contains only one constructor, so we can ignore @auto-add annotation. Next we are going to create a REST endpoint. So let's have a public and then response entity and just pass list of product. Alright, so let me align this, and let's give method name something like search products. Alright, perfect. And we're going to pass a parameter as a query. Alright, and we're going to return the list of products to the client, right? So here let's have a response entity. It has a method called OK, and then we simply call product service and then call its method, that is search products, and we're going to pass query. Okay, perfect. So this method will basically return a response entity. It has a body, that is list of products. So this search products method basically returns a list of products to the client. Okay, so here basically we are using response entity to construct the response for this REST API, right? And this REST API return the status OK, that is 200 status code. Now let's use annotation to make this method as a REST API. Well, let's use @getMapping annotation to handle HTTP GET request, and then pass search as a URI for this REST API. Alright, great. And basically for this REST API, that is search REST API, we are going to use query parameter. Okay, in order to pass the search criteria or the search query, we are going to use query parameter. So in order to bind the value of query parameter, we are going to use the annotation called request param annotation, and here we simply pass the query parameter name, that is query. Okay, perfect. Now we have developed the search REST API. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create one more REST API, that is create product REST API. Well, basically we need to insert a product records into the database table, then only we can able to search the products, right? For that, let's go ahead and let's create product REST endpoint. So here I'm going to say public, and the return type of the REST API is product, and let's give method name is create product, and let's pass product as a parameter. Okay, great. And simply return product service dot create product, and then pass product object. All right, let's annotate this method with @post mapping annotation. So this will basically handle HTTP post request, and we are going to use one more annotation over here, that is @request body annotation. So this request body annotation will basically bind the HTTP request, that is JSON, into product object. And here you can see create product method is not created in a product service interface. So just go ahead and create this method. And similarly, let's override this method in an implementation class, and let's provide the implementation. So go to product service IMPL class and just implement create product method over here, and here simply call product repository, and then call it save method, and then pass product object. Okay, perfect. Now we have created create product REST API. Now let's go ahead and let's run our Spring Boot application, and we'll insert couple of product records using create product REST API, and then we'll test the search REST API. So let me run the Spring Boot application now. And there we go, our Spring Boot application is up and running on embedded Tomcat server on port 8080. Now let's open Postman REST client and let's test the REST APIs. So here I have opened a Postman REST client over here. So first we're gonna call create product REST API to insert a product records into the database table. Well, just go ahead and choose the HTTP post request over here and just enter the request URI, that is HTTP localhost 8080/API/v1/products, and go to body section over here, go to raw and choose JSON, and just pass the JSON product object over here, and the JSON product object name is laptop, description is laptop, and description. Okay, so we are going to basically insert this product record into the database table using create product REST API. So just go ahead and click on send button over here, and you can able to see the REST API successfully returned the saved product into the database table. Alright, and this is basically a primary key, and here you can see date created and date updated. So Hibernate has automatically assigned the values for these two fields. Alright, now we have inserted a product called laptop. Let's go and let's insert few more products. So here I'm going to change laptop to mouse. Okay, and also the image URL. Perfect. So just go ahead and click on send button, and there we go, a mouse product is successfully inserted into the database table. Well, I am going to insert one more record, let's say keyboard product. Okay, I am going to simply change the name and description over here, keyboard, and also change the image URL, keyboard. Perfect, and go ahead and click on send button, and there we go, a keyboard product is successfully inserted into the database table. Alright, so far we have inserted 3 records into the database table. Now we are going to test the search REST API. Alright, so go ahead and click on this plus icon, and here just type the request URI for search REST API. Okay, so localhost 8080/API/v1/products/search, and then here we need to pass the query parameter, that is key value pair basically. So key is query and value is laptop. Okay, so here basically we are searching a list of products by name. Okay, so laptop is basically a product name. Now let me click on send button, and there we go. You can able to see a laptop product is available in a response. Alright, so search REST API basically return this product. Okay, and if you can just search for mouse product, you can able to get the mouse product in the response. There we go. And if you can just search for keyboard, you can able to get the keyboard product in the response. Well, if you can just search for key here instead of keyboard, so this will also give you the product record in a response, because if you can go to a product repository interface, here in a JPQL query we have used like condition, right? So this will basically match the given text with the product name. That's why you can able to get the matched product in a response, right? So let me show you one more use case. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert one more record, keyboard 123, keyboard 123 description. And here in a search REST API, if we pass keyboard, so this will give you 2 product records in the response. There we go, keyboard 123, because this text has matched with these 2 product names, isn't it? That's why you can able to see these products, 2 products in the response, right? So this is how basically we create a search or filter REST API. Okay, so this is basically a common requirement whenever you want to develop the search REST API or filter REST API, then you can go ahead and refer this video. Alright, great. I hope you understood how to build search REST API or filter REST API using Spring Boot, Spring Data JPA and MySQL Database. Alright, perfect.